Hi everybody, it's Isabelle, the belle half of Peybelle, back again with a bit of a different kind of video. I waved my hands the way I normally do, but you guys can't see it because this is a screen recorded video. So that's not gonna work here. This is a different kind of video. I am going to be doing a bunch of bias sorter quizzes. Bias sorter quizzes are where you use a particular type of code to click which member you rank above another in your bias line, and you will end up with a fully sorted bias list of the members of K-pop groups that you are interested in. I wanted to do this kind of video for a couple of reasons. The first one being I am not really good at being introspective and like remembering how I felt at a certain time without definitive proof. So if I do a bias sorter at the beginning of 2021, I'll be able to look back in the middle of the year or toward the end of the year and see if anything changed when my favorite groups came back, or if we learned new facts about them and maybe they rocketed up my bias list because something like that spoke to me. You never know what could happen. Things have happened before and it can happen again. And just because you have a bias doesn't mean that you don't love all the other members. We all know that there's plenty of akkes and solo stands out there, but thankfully, I do not count myself among them, chiefly because I am a multi, and that's basically another reason why I wanted to do this video, is because I am a fan of so many groups, and it can be really interesting to compare your bias lines among different groups that you are interested in, and to see if there are any commonalities, if you are drawn to main vocalists or leaders or idols with the same zodiac sign, who knows, but you aren't able to compare that until you have the data. So that's kind of what I'm here to do. I took a bit of a poll to see if there were any groups that people were interested in me doing bias sorters for, and I have collected a few of the groups that I've been a fan of for a while, as well as some new groups that I am getting acquainted with and want to kind of see where I am at the beginning of 2021, so I can look back as I become more and more of a fan and see if that changes. So without further ado, before I get started, I would like to thank the admin of the bias sorter Tumblr site, without whom this video would not be possible. I've never spoken to them before, but I have done bias sorters ever since I started being a fan of K-pop, and their site is the most reliable. They are unfortunately no longer updating bias sorter quizzes. However, they have made their source code available for you to input your own values so that you can create a sorter list of your own, and you can use that for any number of things, whether it's comebacks, title tracks, Japanese tracks, a bias sorter of your bias, which I think is great. So thank you to the admin of biasorter.tumblr.com. We're going to start with our heavy hitters, NCT. With NCT having so many members, I think this one is going to be really interesting to look at the end. I have a vague idea of what the top of my list is going to look like, but as you get towards the middle and sort towards the bottom, we'll kind of see how that looks. And I think it's interesting and very important, I guess, to note that just because they're at the bottom doesn't mean I don't like them. It just means I don't know them as well, or they're not in my bias line, and that's okay. With NCT being such a huge group, I think that's only natural. There's only so much space in your brain. 23 boys is a lot of boys. All right, Young versus Henry, starting with Wavy, Young, Lucas, Hichan versus Jaemin, Hichan, Dayoung, Jaeyeon, and I have a very interesting personal anecdote about Jaeyeon that I would love to share with you, possibly if you are interested in a NCT-centric story time moment in the future. Let me know. Mark, Johnny versus 10, Oh, I think doing this video was a mistake. The hard thing about doing a bias sorter is someone has to be at the bottom, right? And that really stinks because you're like, well, that doesn't seem right. And you look at the top and you go, well, I think so. But then you look at the middle and you go, no, that's not possible. They can't be near the bottom. But somebody has to be. Somebody has to be near the bottom. And it's a shame. But what else can you do? I am just trying to fly through these just because there are so many members. Yuta versus Jaehyun. I'm sorry to my close personal friend, Jung Jaehyun. Johnny versus Mark. That's tough. And I'm sorry if you hear any weird snuffling noises. My dog is sleeping and she dreams very noisily. Win-Win versus Mark. Ten versus Utah. Now that is a tough one. Johnny versus Utah. Oh no. The thing you notice when you do a bias sorter is that sometimes the middle is the hardest to do. Johnny versus Utah. I'm so sorry. Mark versus Utah. Okay, and now we're sussing out the top, I can tell. Sometimes you just gotta go fast, try to figure it out. All right, that's it. Let's see how we've done. Okay, so the top of this list does not surprise me at all. I consider my bias line to be Do-young, Hye-chan, and Sung-chan. And I mentioned it before that if I wanted to collect, those are who I would collect. I already have a Do-young collection, and Hye-chan and Sung-chan are, for all intents and purposes, my bias wreckers. And then we have Xiaojun 10. 10 is an interesting case because I don't technically consider 10 part of my bias line, but you can't not rank 10 this high. 10 is just, there's nothing else in this world that he could be doing. 10 is a force of nature. He was meant to be an idol, and I am so glad that he is, because now we get to witness him every single day, or close enough to it. Jimin, Johnny, and Mark holding it down at 7 and 8. Yang, Yuta at 10 feels way too low, but you know what? You gotta do what you gotta do. This is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because you don't want to say Lucas, Jaehyun, Taeyong right in the middle. But what else do you do? Jungwon, Tae, I would argue that they're on equal standing, just because at that point in the list, it's hard to say, you know? And then I feel too guilty even to look at the bottom of the list, just because you don't want to say that you ranked someone at the bottom, but you did. So what else can you do? All right, so let's move on to Twice. Twice was my first K-pop group ever. And I think the thing about your first K-pop group is that there's something cemented in your heart that you are never able to let go of them. When I first got into K-pop in 2016, right in between TT and Knock Knock, I was of the opinion that I was not going to get into K-pop. And I was coming off of a previous music-based fandom, if you know, you know, and I didn't necessarily want to open the floodgates. I didn't want to forge a crack in the dam, but I saw TT and I said, well, now that's interesting. And then I told myself, okay, just twice and I'm happy. And then I watched some more videos. I think at that time I was watching a lot of Cosmic Girls videos after several years of like periodically watching dance practices from older groups such as Brown Eyed Girls, Tiara, After School. So I was like, okay, girl groups only. And we'll get to this. And then I got into EXO in 2018, quickly superseded by 17, and the rest is history. So I think it's just kind of one of those things where don't close yourself off to joy just because you think you're not gonna like something. Now, I am not surprised. Maybe I'm a little bit surprised by this, actually. So I am not surprised that Jungyeon is number 1. She has been my ult bias since day 1. I am Jungyeon biased. My first Twitter handle on Stan Twitter, on K-pop Twitter, was Pedal Jungyeon, and it was my trading Instagram handle for a very long time. I have a lot of proofs with that. Jungyeon is my ult of ults. And the fact that she is not promoting right now makes me very sad, but I am really happy that JYP gave her the time and space that she needed, just like when Mina needed her time and space, to make sure that she is well taken care of and that she is ready to rejoin Twice's promotions in the future. Nayeon at number 2 is also not shocking. I love Tuyeon. I love Nayeon. I love that. Juri at number 3 is a more recent development. Geo was my number 3 for a very long time, but in more recent comebacks, Juri has really caught my attention. I think she's really grown into herself and shown what she can do, and I'm really, really proud of her for that. And I think she is my number 3 in my bias line now. Followed thereafter by Chaeyoung, Momo, Mina, Sana, and Dayeon. Dayeon was my original bias record when I first got into Twice around Knock Knock era. Dayeon was my number 2. I think she has a fantastic personality, and she's also a Gemini like me. So is Chewy, which I think is very interesting. But someone has to be last because I refuse to let myself tie just on a personal principle. So, are you surprised? Where does your bias fall on my list? I know a lot of people are Japan line biased for Twice, and I love them, but it's Jungyeon for me all the way. gfriend bias order. So this one is going to be one where I am going based off what little I know about them. It's not that I know, okay, I guess I should clarify. It's not that I know very little. It's just that I have not been a fan of theirs for very long. I've listened to their music for a super long time. I think the first song of theirs that I heard as it was coming out was Fingertip, which admittedly is very different than the rest of their discography. However, I knew even then that they were vocal legends, really sweet girls, and they had a flawless discography. I mean, Navilera, Me Gustas Tu, Glass Bead, those are songs that every K-pop fan knows, or if they don't know, you know, they kind of know about. So they've always been in my periphery. And then last year in 2020, I watched gfriend Loves Europe, and that gave me a great opportunity to get to know them. And I love gfriend, and I think everybody should too. I'm very passionate about them. They are Pei's alt girl group, and I'm sure they will be upset because I can already tell where Yuju is gonna be. Yep, I am unfortunately not surprised. It feels wrong because I feel like it should all be a first place tie, but Una is my bias in gfriend. She's just such a talented vocalist, and she is so cute and fashionable. I love to see her on Instagram. Frankly, I love to see all of them on Instagram, and I like the fact that they all get individual Instagrams. Cough cough 17, please let them post back on their personal Instagrams. But Shinbi as my bias wrecker, Yerin, Umji, Soan, and Yuju. You know, like I said, this one should be considered a tie because that seems very unfair to the rest of them. So we're gonna move on quickly before I can dwell on that. Pentagon. Now, I know for a fact because I took this biasorter last year. I know for a fact that Dawn is still in this list because it is from Pentagon Maker era. I am going to be automatically sorting him toward the bottom just because I feel like I should not consider him part of Pentagon in this sense anymore. I love Dawn. His music is fantastic. And I'm really excited to see what he does next. However, I find it unfair, and I will not be sorting him in the context of my Pentagon bias sorter. So let's just get this out of the way. I have made some really close uni friends, and you have seen recently that both Pei and I have gotten quite into Pentagon over the last year or so. I believe that Pentagon should be given a lot more due, and I am so glad that they received their first win last year for Daisy. Daisy is an amazing song, and they are amazing guys. I say sometimes that it seems like they're too earnest and too honest for the K-pop industry, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the sense that you can tell that they mean and believe in what they're doing. You just really get to see the difference when you're a fan of a group like Pentagon. So I think that that is really something special. Now, I am not surprised by this either. I knew that Kino was my Pentagon bias. Hyungwoo is so talented. I remember even before I really got into Pentagon, I saw this amazing Shine fan cam of him that was just mesmerizing. He has so much charisma and so much talent, and you can tell how much he loves being on stage with the rest of Pentagon. And he is just very sweet and very beautiful and very talented. Following that, we have Usuk and Shinwon, and Shinwon is you know, I don't know what I was gonna say there, and I don't know why I skipped over talking about Usuk. I just feel very obviously that I love Usuk. Magne Line in Pentagon are really amazing. Yeah, I love Usuk. Shinwon at number 3, Yanan at number 4, Hui, Jinho, Changgu, Yeon, Yuto, Hongseok, and then the requisite Dawn being at the bottom. Now, I talked a little bit before about the fact that EXO was my first boy group. I was lucky enough to spend a couple of comebacks with them before members started to enlist. I know other XOLs are not so lucky, but I also know that plenty of XOLs have been there since the beginning, so I am a little bit jealous of them. You cannot change the past, only move forward into the future. Chanyeol was my first bias, my first boy group bias ever, but Kyungsoo has overtaken him. I love Kyungsoo, even though he makes dramas and movies so sad that I literally cannot watch them. I love to listen to him sing, and I love to watch clips of his movies so I don't have to worry about the hardships that his characters are undergoing. I'm really happy that he's back soon. I missed Kyungsoo a lot, and I'm really happy that he had a good service and that he is ready to come back and pursue whatever interests him. Followed by Chanyeol at number 2, who is now, I guess, my bias wrecker after being my bias for so long. Wow, how times change. I still love Chanyeol, but I just have been really enchanted by Kyungsoo, and I don't think anybody can blame me for that. We have Minseok at number 3, Xiumin, Baekhyun, who puts out literally the greatest music ever. I didn't think I was gonna like his solo album, but then after I saw him perform his songs at the Super M concert, I was like, hold on, why haven't I listened to this? And then I listened to them the whole way home. We have Jongdae at number 5, Junmyeon at number 6, Yixing at number 7, Seon, Jongin, Luhan, Chris, and Tao. Now, I do 17 bias orders pretty periodically, and I'm going to put them up on the screen so you can kind of see how things evolved over time. After I became a fan of 17, I found it very, very difficult to choose a bias. And I guess the saying is true that you do not choose the bias chooses you. But it took me a while, but now Minghal and I are inseparable, so I already know he's going to be number 1. It's the rest of the list that is very interesting to me. And it definitely has shifted a lot, and the middle portion, probably the number 4 to number 8 spots especially, they change probably daily based on whatever new Going 17 just came out or whatever new magazine pictorial just came out. Speaking of, I'm filming this right after the bizarre China pictures just came out. Can we talk about that for a moment? Why? They look incredible. I want to give a Pulitzer Prize, a Grammy, an Emmy, a Tony, Daesang to the stylist who selected that, to the photographer and the director who made these choices. I think they are simply a genius, and I kiss their brain. Oh boy, now this looks different. I think I have to sit with myself for a moment here. As expected, Minghal is at number 1. Joshua's at number 2. For a very long time, I was in denial. Pei used to call it dark bias when somebody would catch your eye at a concert. So at KCON or at another event. Concert you is a different person. Concert you is paying attention to things that you never noticed before you saw these idols in person. And then the more I paid attention to Joshua, the higher and higher he just ranked up my bias list, and now there is no removing him from the number 2 spot. Mingyu at number 3, very consistent. Sungwan at number 4. Number 4 was Chan for a very, very, very long time. Chan was actually number 2 for a very long time, but now I've kind of resigned myself. I don't know who I am looking at this list anymore. Wonu at number 5, King Tol at 6, Vernon at 7. At least I'm consistent. Soon Young and June at the bottom. And again, it doesn't mean that I don't love them. It's just that their personalities and mine, I think if we were in a room together, we would not mesh. Soon Young and me both being Geminis. However, I'm a May Gemini and he's a June Gemini, so there are some things to consider there. I think we are too similar to get along. And then June and June is also a Gemini, of course. June is a June Gemini. I think we are too different to get along. If anybody has any astrological insight into that, let me know. Seungkwan at number 4. Like, I'm not going to say no because I love Seungkwan. Wonu at number 5. Sungchul at number 6. Check in with me on Twitter or in the comments. Ask me how I am about this because this looks quite different than what I expected. The bias line is forever. It's the rest that really gets you. Now, I, for a very, very long time, thought I was not going to get into Stray Kids. I resolved not to for several reasons, but over the last month or so, I literally don't know what happened. It's like a switch flipped in my brain, and now I am obsessed with Stray Kids. They are really incredible musicians, really, really kind and sweet guys. And I am as blown away as the rest of you probably are. So we're going to do this bias order according to my gut. So don't let me hesitate on this because I need to know in my heart of hearts where I stand. Oh my god, that was over so fast. I know they only have 8 members, but that was over so fast. All right, let's see. Well, I don't think we're surprised. Are we surprised? We might be surprised. Okay, so when I watched the backdoor relay dance, Minho caught my eye very quickly. So I originally thought that he was going to be my bias, especially after I found out that he was a Scorpio, like my 2 alt biases, Junghyun and Minho. But that has rapidly proven not the case. Chan is a really good dude. I'm looking for words to discuss it, but I don't know if I can at this time. Once again, check in with me later. And I love Felix. I think there's an additional level of fondness that I feel towards Chris and Felix because of their accents. I was born in Australia, and my mom growing up had an Australian accent. So there is a comfort that comes with listening to them because it reminds me of being at home and being young and not really worrying about anything. Felix at number 2, Lino at number 3, Hyunjin at number 4, Changbin at number 5, Han Jisung at number 6, Ayen, Armakne, Jongin at number 7, and Seungmin at number 8. And I love Seungmin, but I actually don't know a lot about him. If you have any recommendations for something to watch where I can get to know his personality a little bit more, please let me know. I would love to see it. That is that for me, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning into this very weird little video. I appreciate it. Let me know, do you think that my biases have anything in common? Or tell me who your biases are, and if that has always been the case or if that has changed. I would love to have some conversations. You can catch me on Twitter or in the comments here or on Instagram. thank you so much for watching. Be well and have a great day.